Welcome to History Night in Springettsbury. The plan is to offer these events 3 times a year from 7 o'clock to 8:30. Tonight's will be about 75 minutes long in April, July, and October. Thanks to the Springettsbury Township supervisors for their support of History Nights. The dates for this year are shown on the screen. As coming attractions in July, I'll focus on a wide variety of barns that are in the township, along with some stories of they have some unique stories, some of them do. So that'll be the July History Talk. In October History Night, we'll have guest speaker Scott Mingus talking on Civil War stories associated with the township. We'll have a big crowd for that one, I'm sure. A little housekeeping. Please silence your phones. The restrooms are located through that door, back to the hallway to your left. Other than when I ask a question of this gathering, I'd appreciate if you would hold your questions and discussions until the end of the talk, unless I ask a question of the group. As with all History Nights, this event is being recorded with the content viewable several weeks later as a YouTube video on the Springettsbury Township website. They have a new website now. It may take a little while to find where it's at. It's not at its usual place. History Nights are a venue of the Springettsbury Township Historic Preservation Committee. Our committee was established 34 years ago by the Board of Supervisors at the time of Springettsbury's centennial to identify historically significant structures and sites while generating interest in and documenting the township's history. Our committee consists up to 9 members appointed by the Board of Supervisors. We presently have a full contingent of members. Our committee has started printing booklets on facets of Springettsbury Township history. They will be available at History Night events. The first one, documenting the initial township building and police station, is available for a suggested $5 donation at the table at the rear. I'm Stephen Smith, and I'm chairman of the Springettsbury Township Historic Preservation Committee. I'll be presenting the program tonight. Tonight, I'll explore interesting history of past and present township lodging businesses. Built for visitors and travelers, however, also frequented by locals for their restaurants and other amenities. In addition to the 16 shown on this montage, I'll explore additional motels and inns, plus a few early hotels, rooming houses, tourist cabins, and campgrounds. The York County History Center was one of the sources for this presentation. Also, the York County Archives, archives of the Springettsbury Township Historic Preservation Committee, the Recorder of Deeds office were used to determine some of the dates in this, but mainly newspapers.com, which is a searchable newspaper database, which is a great resource. Other photos and postcards from my collection, primarily from those submitted by you and all other people that are readers of that on my York Past blog site. So that's where I get most of the information. Now, did Springettsbury Township have lodging places when it was established in 1891? The answer is yes. It had 2 hotels. One was established in 1752 and the other established in 1847. The locations of both are shown on an 1860 map of York County. That map was surveyed in 1859, showing the roads at that time, plus the surveyor asked at each dwelling, who lives here? And he noted the head of that household on the map. That's a great resource for any genealogist doing family history research. He also noted businesses such as shops, mills, stores, and lodging places. So the first one we'll look at is this section of the 1860 map. I've annotated the roadways with present road names in blue, and the yellow arrow points to the Houston Hotel. More recently, that site was known as the old York Valley Inn. And the present location where it was located is approximately at the Market Street entrance to the York Mall and now to Walmart. So that's where it was located. The initial structure at that site was in 1738 home built by English Quaker John Greast. After Michael Baird acquired the house in 1749, he enlarged it, and in 1752, operated it as Valley Inn until son George Baird sells the business to Abraham Houston in 1814. At the time the 1860 map is drawn, son John Houston is operating Houston's Hotel. The largest expansion of the building occurred under the Houston ownership, which was the building that you saw in 1962 when it was torn down. The Houston Hotel only had small additions by subsequent owners. So the building takes the name 3 Mile House after John Gable acquires the Houston Hotel in 1883. And it was William Ball, the proprietor of the business in 1916, that makes the final name change to Ye Old Valley Inn, as shown on this 1959 photo. In the 1950s, in newspaper advertisements, it is also advertised as Ye Old Valley Inn Hotel, since overnight accommodations were still available up to that time. So you could still stay overnight at this hotel in 1959. The building was torn down in 1962 to widen East Market Street from 2 lanes to 4 lanes in preparation for developing the York Mall. However, most of the material from the left side was repurposed to build the cemetery office at the Susquehanna Memorial Gardens. I'll share a little bit more about the Old Valley Inn in the main part of this talk about the various township lodging places on the Lincoln Highway. Does anybody care to guess the name of the other early township hotel that was already 44 years old when Springettsbury Township was established? Anybody care to guess? Guess not. The answer is Amig's Hotel, which opened in 1847. And in terms of present roadways, it was along the north side of Mount Rose Avenue, tucked up against what was now the northbound I-83 on-ramp. So that's where it was located. On this section of the 1860 map, the yellow arrow points to Amig's Hotel. Now, Solomon Amig acquired the property in 1842 and built a 3-story house. After a few years, he added a wing to the back of the house where the family lived and began renting overnight accommodations in the front part of the building. He did that in 1947 and called the business Amig's Hotel. The hotel remained in operation following Solomon's death in 1880, first by son Emanuel Amig, then by others, until going out of business in 1916, when it became a private home. The yellow arrow, again, points to the former Amig's Hotel in this 1956 bird's eye view of the property. To the right side of the former hotel are twin barns, which will be some of the barns discussed at History Night in July, sharing their story. You will note that Camp Betty Washington Road did not align with Haynes Road at the time. It's an orchard on the other side. The road alignment happens 3 years later after I-83 was constructed in the area. Now, after I provided the preview montage of 16 motels and inns at last October's History Night, several approached me with other Springettsbury motels not among those 16. The three that came up most often was Hoffman's Motel. How many know Hoffman's Hotel? Okay, that's new to everybody else too, so it's good that I researched that. How about Spirit of 76 Motel? Okay, a lot of people remember that. How about Char Hill Motel? Okay, some people remember that one. So actually, Char Hill shows up on this one. But I mainly did this one to show, after ID3 was built, the big arrow continues to point to the former Amig's Hotel in this straight down 1964 aerial photo. It stood after ID3 opened, and ID3 opened in this area in 1959. It was 1965 when that building was torn down during the construction of a mobile oil service stations on the northwest corner of that intersection. Now, the aerial photo also shows the location of the first new construction at that intersection. It is the Char Hill Hotel, which opened at 1162 Haynes Road. So it was Charlie and Hilda Allen opening the 14-room Char Hill Hotel in 1962. Like many of the other small motels established in Springettsbury Township during the mid-1900s, this married couple were the owners and managers of the motel. In 1976, they changed the name to Spirit of 76 Motel, after 6 additional guest rooms were added, also to play on the bicentennial year. Now, you can see why they chose the name Char Hill Motel. It's not, it's only Hill, just one L. It's named after Charlie, as Char, and Hilda, H-I-L, is for Hilda. So it's named after the owners, the builders, owners, and operators of the motel. Now, in 1979, Barry and Penny Grendel purchased a 20-room motel and sold the front yard where a Denny's restaurant opened in 1980. In the 1980s, they added additional guest rooms, bringing the motel room total to 40 with a riverboat theme, and became affiliated with the national chain of budget host inns. How many had visitors that stayed there? Quite a few. How many ate at the Denny's restaurant? Oh, almost everybody. That was built in the front yard. Although locals seldom stayed at motels in this talk, they did frequently their restaurants and other attractions. Another attraction at this one was the party mini golf. How many had their children or grandchildren that they took to play miniature golf there? Okay, quite a few. Okay, well, essentially, when ID3 and Mount Rose Avenue interchange redesign project resulted in these were actually demolished in 2014. So, you know about when the construction started, 2014. And it took them how long? How many years? Yeah. There was one final Springettsbury Township lodging business along Mount Rose Avenue, and that is this. Most people don't realize the hotel is in Springettsbury, just in Springettsbury, because most of the golf course, and actually Windows on the Green is actually in York Township, so you know where the township line is. So the hotel is in Springettsbury, and Windows on the Green, or whatever it is now, is in York Township. So this sixth floor, 103-room Heritage Hills Hotel, it opened in 1997 at 2700 Mount Rose Avenue. The whole hotel, like I said, is just inside Springettsbury Township. It was built 8 years after the golf course opened and after Windows on the Green also opened at that time. And it was built at that time to provide on-site lodging for guests of the Heritage Hills Golf Resort, although others stay there also. Now I'll get to the Lincoln Highway part of this talk. This Google Earth bird's eye view will serve as the background reference to highlight the sequence and location of lodging businesses established along the 3.7 miles of Lincoln Highway within Springettsbury Township. The key locator roads are highlighted in red. Their road names are annotated in blue. The northward-looking view of the York Valley focuses on the Lincoln Highway, which is East Market Street extending across the screen. The photo extends from the left side at Memory Lane across to beyond Locust Grove Road to the Yorkland development. So as I sequence through these, I'll have a yellow arrow pointing to where the hotel, motel, or inn is located. And then after I go to the next one, that'll be white. And so you'll be following the yellow arrow to where these various places are located along the Lincoln Highway. There were quite a few in that very short span. Actually, 14 were in that short span of distance there. Now, this Google Earth, like I said, the Lincoln Highway section of this talk examines the 14 lodging places that'll be presenting in chronological order by when they opened. The Old Valley Inn was the only lodging place on the Lincoln Highway within Springettsbury Township when the Lincoln Highway was established in 1913. That tavern and lodging business goes back to the Valley Inn, which opened in 1752. It was already 25 years old at the time colonial delegates fled Philadelphia, traveling to the Continental Congress when the Continental Congress sat in New York during 1777 and 1778. So a lot of the colonial delegates likely stopped there or potentially stayed there a day or two. It is the last years of existence of this in the early 1960s that the inn had the street address of 2811 East Market Street. So this circa 1916 photo shows the Old Valley Inn right after proprietor William Bell changed its name from 3 Mile House. This view looks east along the Wrightsville Turnpike, which is still a toll road in 1916, and 3 years after the roadway was included as part of the coast-to-coast Lincoln Highway. In the lower right, you can see electric trolley tracks. They were along the south side of the road from 1903 to 1913. Now, it was in 1808, the Wrightsville Turnpike Company is granted the right to greatly improve the dirt and gravel road between Wrightsville and York as a toll road. Once the macadamized road, 21 feet wide, 1 foot thick in the center, with the surface slanting to the sides, was completed in 1818. So that was a 10-year project to build that road because it was all manual labor. They'd crush the rocks. They had like little things. The rock had to be 2.5 inches diameter. If it was smaller than that, it went to the smaller pile. Because once they got 2 layers of big stone, then they had that 8 inches of that. They had gradually decreasing size of stone on the top layers to create the road. So that was created over a 10-year period. And once it was completed in 1818, tolls commenced to be taken. So a macadamized road is actually named after Scottish engineer John Macadam, who pioneered this road construction technique in the late 1700s in England. Now, tolls were collected on the Wrightsville Turnpike for 100 years, until 1918, when county and state governments each paid $30,000 to the Turnpike Company to purchase the 10-mile turnpike and make it a public road. So, did you ever wonder why toll roads are called turnpikes? It's because once the toll was paid, early on, a long pole or pike was turned. So you see that little kid turning the pike. So that's why they call them turnpikes. One of the toll gates in the Wrightsville Turnpike was located just west of Ye Old Valley Inn. It was actually on the waterway that now passes under East Market Street at Northern Way. So that's where one of the toll pike gates were on the Wrightsville Turnpike. The Lincoln Highway was our country's first coast-to-coast hard-surfaced highway. It was established in 1913 by selecting linked road segments where improvements would be focused. The coast-to-coast fully paved Lincoln Highway was completed in 1926. The highway made it easier to travel further distances. People drove further for business and pleasure. They needed places to stay overnight, resulting in lodging businesses proliferating along the Lincoln Highway, which is the 3.7 miles of East Market Street in Springettsbury Township. Now, the first business we'll look at, lodging business, is the Big Hand Tourist Camp. Opened in 1925 along the Lincoln Highway at Stony Brook. Its street address would have been approximately 3710 East Market Street, which is in the fields a short distance east of Locust Grove Road. This is a Library of Congress photo of these tourist camps that occurred right after the Lincoln Highway was set up. The Big Hand Tourist Camp was a seasonal tourist camping business. It was affiliated with Strickler Stony Brook Garage. The Stony Brook Garage is still standing there. It's been vacant for a while. So they're the ones that kind of sponsored this camp, along with the owner. Now, in 1927, there was a Mohawk Cobb's Road Guide put out that noted the Big Hand Tourist Camp. It indicated where it was located. They charged 50 cents per night to camp. The camp also rented sites where tents were supplied. Two existing Stony Brook businesses operated a temporary seasonal general store on the campgrounds. These were the grocery store of Mrs. Emma Hoke and the meat market of Elmer Horn. So you had a store provided there. In 1928, when the Boy Scouts placed Lincoln Highway concrete markers across the nation, marking the route of the Lincoln Highway, one of those markers was placed next to the entrance of the Big Hand Tourist Camp, which was about the location of the much later Turkey Hill store east of Locust Grove Road. So this tenant tourist camp went out of business about 1930. So probably the Great Depression dried up most of the business. So it went out 1930. So we'll look at the next one, also in the Stony Brook area. In 1928, the Highway Bridge Service Station opened along the Lincoln Highway in Stony Brook, just east of the newly opened viaduct humpback bridge over the railroad tracks. That's the bridge that was removed in 1998. This service station rented tourist cabins right from the start, probably getting the idea from the neighboring Big Hand Tourist Camp, just down the highway. Its street address is approximately 3852 East Market Street. Now, the service station initially provided gasoline, oil, tourist cabins, light lunch, and refreshments. However, by the time of this 1935 business card, Nagel had added selling radios, he had opened a machine shop, and became a sales and service location for Taylor Cub airplanes, utilizing the grass field next to their business. So Nagel operated the machine shop and airplane part of the business into the late 1940s. However, he leased the gas station, lunchroom, and tourist cabins to Ira Newcomer in 1938. The tourist cabins business ceased in the early 1940s. The station stopped selling gas about 1960. However, several people kept the lunchroom going until 2003. Probably the most popular was Mom's Lunchroom. Some people remember that. Yep. Now, two of the the Highway Bridge wood frame tourist cabins that were in the best condition were later moved and temporarily used in the initial months of the Stony Brook Tourist Home, which operated next to the drive-in theater. This photo shows those tourist cabins when they were no longer used in 1953 after the newly constructed Stony Brook Motel opened, which I'll have a little bit more about later. So up to this time, up to 1946, this was the high-class, other than the Ye Old Valley Inn, this was high-class tourist accommodations here in Springettsbury. The first high-class tourist location was Hotel Paddock in 1946. Now, the Hotel Paddock opened in 1946. Its address, 3406 East Market Street. The discovery of this motel started when a Hershey family researcher in Lancaster County shared a tale entitled, "Janet Hershey Creates More Businesses Than Milton Hershey." So, quoting two sentences from that work, quote, "A bet on a horse yielded the prize of a free use of a stately house on the Lincoln Highway. She fashioned it the Hotel Paddock, serving meals and offering lodging," end quote. So this is something I found at the Lancaster County Historical Society. Actually, a lot of her businesses were in Lancaster County, but she had businesses in York, in Harrisburg, the Jersey Shore, Myrtle Beach, and some in Florida. Like, she had businesses all over. The newspaper ads and articles provide the rapid timeline that Janet Hershey was known for establishing a business, getting it running, profitable, and then she'd sell it on to the next one. So she never hung around long at any business. Most business she started early in the year and sold by the end of the year. This one she held on for like 2 years. So Janet is serving Sunday turkey dinners in the house days after acquiring it. And in rapid succession, she expands to weekend dinners as renovations continued on the house. Now, the house itself was actually built in 1907 for John and Bertha Hauser. That was per deed research. And in 1939, the house was sold to their son, Henry Hauser. In 1945, Henry Hauser sells the house to Grover Thompson. And less than 1 year later, in September 18th, 1946, it is sold to Janet Hershey for $1. That's in Deed Book 32, Deed Book 32G, page 532. So you can document exactly when she bought it. And you look at newspaper clippings, it's like a week later, she's serving turkey dinners on weekends. 2 weeks later, she's serving turkey dinners and other dinners the weekends as renovations continued. December, she is opening up what is now called the Hotel Paddock and Food Corral. December 46, she's supplying banquets by reservation and 6 bedrooms are open. Once you get to January 4th of 1947, she considers it complete. And she has this ad in the York Dispatch of January 4th, 1947. She now offers 4-course dinners, shoulder meals, sandwiches, and they have 12 bedrooms if you look in other ads. She also has it operating from noon to midnight daily. So she was up in business from September to December, and then in February of 47, she got her liquor license too. So now it's the same place as the paddock on Market. So that's the early history of the paddock on Market, and the reason is why it's called the paddock. Now, the Modern Era Motel is the next one here. It opened as the first modern, purpose-built motel in Springettsbury Township. The streamlined modern architecture, outside and inside, set it apart from many other motels built in the 1940s. Its address is 3311 East Market Street. Charlotte and Martin Mundus Jr., the builders and initial owners-operators of the Modern Era Motel, stand at the reception desk during the grand opening in May of 1949. Now, personally, I have a connection to the motel because my uncle and aunt, Parks and Marion, they moved to Charlottesville, Virginia, shortly after World War II. And whenever they came up here to visit family, they always stayed at the Modern Era Motel. They claimed because of the unique ambiance in the main building combined with very pleasant people. So they had good times there. Bob and Debbie Strahl were later longtime owners of this motel. Deb Strahl was one of the instructors that gave local swimming lessons at the motel pool. The Springettsbury Township supervisors presented a proclamation to Bob and Deb Strahl in 1994 for their faithful preservation of the Modern Era Motel. This photo shows the Modern Era Motel and the neon sign from about 30 years ago when it was in good shape and still lit up with neon at night. The motel closed last year in 2024 after the group interested in developing various properties at that corner of Mount Zion Road and East Market Street purchased the 1-acre property on which the motel sits for $875,000. Their plans call for the demolition of this Modern Era motel eventually. Now, Tom Davison, director of Pennsylvania Chapter Lincoln Highway Association, has partnered that association with Preservation Pennsylvania in a fundraising effort to save and restore the rundown Modern Era Motel sign to its original appearance and to display it in the Agricultural and Industrial Museum of the York County History Center. The developer allowed the sign's remover in November, and it is at Mundorf Sign Company in West York. They have started the sign restoration and will be doing the neon refurbishment and relocation to the Agricultural and Industrial Museum as additional funds are raised. Presently, $9,150 has been raised, and $5,850 is still needed to complete the work. So if you wish to donate to the Restoration Fund, Preservation Pennsylvania serves as the fiscal manager of this fundraising campaign. So your donation is 100% tax deductible. If you simply Google Save Modern Era Sign, you'll go to the preservation website, Preservation Pennsylvania website to make a donation. Or a QR code to access the site is provided at the end of this talk. The next motel is Barnhart's Motel, built in 1951, or opened in 1951. What is now known as Barnhart's was originally opened in 1951 as Gladys Tourist Home and Cabins. It began when the large brick McGowan home at 3021 East Market Street with 12 rooms, 3 baths, and a first-floor lavatory on a large lot was offered for sale in August of 1950. And the very last line of the ad, they advertise, this house would be ideal for apartments or a tourist home. So while today the property is well known by the longtime name Barnhart's Motel, during the initial 5 years, this lodging business was conducted by Ralph and Gladys Miller. After they purchased the McGowan home in 1951, Gladys Tourist Home rented rooms by the day or week, often to out-of-towners. Newspapers indicated that many of them were people coming in from Illinois to supervise the Caterpillar plant construction. So a lot of the people that did the construction or supervised the construction of the Caterpillar plants were staying at this motel. In 1955, Paul and Mary Barnhart purchased the business. Like most of these motels that were operated by a couple, Mary did the business and the husband usually was the maintenance man. At the time of purchase, the lodging business consisted of 14 guest rooms in the main house and a long building containing 13 motel units, which was constructed by Ralph Miller. Paul Barnhart added another long building with 8 motel units. Several owners later, the business name changed from Barnhart's Motel to Barnhart's Hospitality Inn, and then it was back to Barnhart's Motel. The business also closed last year after a plan was approved by the township supervisors to construct a Shiny Shell car wash on the site. So that will be a Shiny Shell car wash in the future. The next one is the Chateau Motel. That opened in 1951. Its address is 3951 East Market Street. This postcard shows the Chateau Motel in 1952. John and Isabel Heindel opened the motel during December of 1951, which was 6 months after Gladys Tourist Home opened. With the closing of the Modern Air Motel and Barnhart's Motel last year, the Chateau Motel is now the oldest operating motel in Springettsbury Township. The Chateau was built as another motel for travelers, owned and operated by a mom and pop, like many that sprung up along the Lincoln Highway. And this one was actually constructed in the midst of building the Bendix factory in Stony Brook. Many of the people flying up from Maryland, this was actually a satellite of the business in Maryland where Bendix had a factory. And they commuted back and forth a lot. And this motel was used often during those early years of the Bendix plant in Stony Brook. Now we're up to the Stony Brook Motel, opened in 1953. Its address was 3610 East Market Street. The map is filling up. We're about halfway there. The Stony Brook Motel actually began as the farmhouse that remained following the sale of farmland to create the Stony Brook Drive-In Theater, to which wood-frame tourist cabins were added by moving the 25-year-old cabins from the former Highway Bridge service station. Those only lasted for a couple months before they were replaced by the newer structure built onto the farmhouse. Bud and Fran Breedbenner, how do you say that? breadwinner, owned and operated the Stony Brook Motel and campgrounds for 34 years before selling it in 1987 to Prime Choice Incorporated. What do you think they built? They're the ones that built houses, yeah, at the Market Street entrance to their motel. So there were a lot of mom and pop businesses that built these motels. They had additional places along the front there. I think they had some rooms on the back too, I'm not sure, but I've read they had they tripled their size since they started off in the early years. And that VW Bugs keeps showing up on these various photos, so he must have been the photographer. The next one is Springettsbury Motel. Now, Springettsbury Motel was opened in 1953. It's located at 3522 East Market Street. It opened 3 months after the Stony Brook Motel opened. They were actually neighbors. Royal Grove was also a partner in having a Howard Johnson's restaurant open 3 years later at the driveway to his, so they were building restaurants near their motels, and which is kind of neat. Now, the Howard Johnson building presently houses the Stony Brook Family Restaurant. So here is the Springettsbury Motel sign. The signage fronts Lincoln Highway. Roy Grove named his resort, actually playground, except to use the German for playground, which is Spielgrund. So that's why he named it. He had, I guess he figured he was too close to playland, so he named it Spielgrund, make it different. He's actually a World War I veteran. In the upper part of this Springettsbury postcard is the resort's lake for boating and fishing. So they dredged out a big lake on the property. Next to the lake was a sandy beach and playground. In the distance, to the far right, is the back of the movie screen of the Stony Brook Drive-In Theater. And closer in distance is the barn and the farmhouse where the Stony Brook Motel was begun just a few months earlier. So at that time, they were strictly using the farmhouse, and they had 2 cabins set up next to the motel, next to the farmhouse. So this is before they had any of the additions. So that lake is about where the firehouse is right now. So they filled it back in, or actually when they had a flood, that silt coming down over the hills filled it in for them. Now, the lower part shows the swimming pool and a few of the motel rooms. In the later years, the swimming pool was actually enclosed and heated in winter. This motel went out of business about 1980. Hoffman's Hotel, the one that I really do a lot of digging for, it's good they mentioned it because it was there. Hoffman's Motel opened in 1957. Its address was 2610 East Market Street. Our collections actually have a photo of that section of the highway that shows the motel sign. This is a 1965 view looking east along Market Street at the entrance to the Hoffman's Motel, which is on the south side of the street. Charlie and Myrtle Hoffman had acquired the lot in 1952, on which they built, owned, and operated Hoffman's Motel after Charlie retired as a chain worker. So this is their retirement project, to build a motel. So after the motel opened in 1957, Charlie served as the maintenance man and Myrtle operated the motel. After 10 years in business, they sold the motel to their neighbors to the east side, which is Barley's Oldham House East. Afterward, Barley's leased the motel property to several commercial businesses before they used the former motel property to expand Autumn House East. Interestingly, when Charlie moved out of his house into assisted living, he moved into Autumn House East, where he died at the age of 100. Neat story. Still filling up. Harry Pence purchased a 5/8 acre property along the Lincoln Highway in August of 1957 and immediately made plans to build a 10-unit motel behind the house on the property. This is where the Flamingo Motel opened in 1957. Its address is 3600 East Market Street. Now, here is an early postcard showing the 24-foot high by 12-foot wide sign along the highway for the Flamingo Motel. If you read newspaper articles, they had a heck of a time getting this past the supervisors to approve this sign. But he prevailed. Years later, the sign was destroyed by a heavy winds, and the owner at that time chose not to replace it, instead of opting for a simple sign which now appears in the front of the still operating motel. So here's what it now looks like. Again, this still operates. It's mainly a weekly or monthly rate motel. The next one we'll look at is the York Valley Inn, which opened in 1959 at the Market Street entrance into the Yorkland housing development. Its address was 3883 East Market Street. This is an aerial drawing of the York Valley Inn Motel. And again, a lot of their advertising is actually York Valley Inn or simply York Valley Inn Motel, which initially contained 25 guests. However, after 3 major additions, it contained 165 rooms. So this is actually the biggest hotel in the township when it was there. And, there were indoor and outdoor pools. There was a tennis court that was flooded to feature ice skating from December 15th to March 15th, which is possible because the ice rink refrigeration system was under the tennis court. A large banquet room with a capacity of 350 could be separated into smaller rooms, and many locals ate at the dining room, which operated first as Sword and Shield from 1959. Who ate there? Everybody. Who ate at Seven Cousins when it was there? Almost everybody. How about Chaucer's? That was the last thing they operated. Okay, so the number of eating there went down as the various operators went to move in. Now, from the start, the York Valley Inn was affiliated with Quality Court Motels. At the time, the organization was nearly 500 members strong. The York Valley Inn Motel was often billed as a resort, complete with sauna and health club, beauty shop, barber shop, game room. Their indoor heated pool allowed year-round swimming instruction, which was big for locals and for guests. Several of the people that taught swimming lessons there was Mrs. Stombaugh, Shirley Flavey, Helen Fisher, among others. The York Valley Inn closed in 1998 due to heavy debt. The foreclosure led to sale to an investor that could never muster the funds to do anything with the property. So it sat vacant for 10 years until being demolished in 2008. The property was vacant until 2023 when an apartment complex known as Flatbrook Flats started to be constructed on the site and is now completed. The next motel is the Playland Motel, which actually is the Playland Pool Motel. It opened in 1960. Its address was 2810 East Market Street. It was part of the Playland Recreation Complex that opened in stages. which included the roller skating rink, which opened first in 1941, a huge above-ground swimming pool and surrounding playground area with basketball, volleyball, and picnicking area opened in 1946, and a miniature golf course opened in 1948. In 1960, guest rooms were added around the 1946 pool to create the Plain Lane Pool Motel. These photos show the initial sign used during the 1960s and the sign after the motel came under new ownership as the Plain Lane Congress Inn during the 1970s. Again, playing on the bicentennial year. There are a lot of things they changed their name during the bicentennial year. During the 1980s, the lodging business received its final name, Yorkview Motel. After fire destroyed the neighboring roller skating rink in 1985, and with the site sitting vacant for a number of years, the pool motel lost business and was let to run down because there were always discussions circulating about eventually tearing it down anyway for commercialization. The pool motel was demolished in 1991 during the redevelopment of the whole site. Now, to create the motel, 30 elevated motel rooms were constructed around the outer edge of the pool deck. Thereafter, the pool had limited public availability, with it occasionally restricted solely to motel guests if they were booked full. The first floor lobby lounge entrance to the motel had a large window in the back wall that provided an underwater view of the swimming pool, which was right where the diving boards were located. This motel pool was said to be the largest motel pool in the nation when it opened. And it was of such a novel design, it often appeared in travel magazines, which attracted travelers to stay there strictly for the experience. The next one is really getting full now. The Holiday Inn at 2600 East Market Street opened in 1964. It presently operates as Quality Inn and Suites and contains 110 guest rooms. Holiday Inn was a fast-growing motel chain that began in 1952. When this one opened in York 12 years later, the chain has surpassed 500 Holiday Inns. And these are all new constructed now Holiday Inns. 4 years later, after this one was built, they surpassed 1,000 Holiday Inns in the nation. So it was a very fast-growing motel chain. The motel was built on a 4-acre property of York businessman Eddie Herr, who since the 1930s operated this property as his country estate, complete with horse stables, horse training track, and a beer and beverage distributorship. Eddie Herr leased the land to Holiday Inn for 35 years with 3 20-year renewals. So the first lease went to 1998, and the renewals for his descendants went to 2018 and will continue to 2038 and 2058. I don't know what happens after 2058. So the lease deal specified that the Herr ranch house on the property, which dated to 1937, it had to be saved. So it was moved to a lot on the northwest corner of Edgewood Road and Eastern Boulevard, and presently serves as a dentist office. So that was originally Eddie Herr's ranch house. The building housing the Herr beer distributorship also still stands. The motel has leased that building on the west front of the property to various businesses. For a long time, it housed a barbershop and a beauty salon. Who went to that barbershop? I did. Who went to the beauty salon? Get someone back there. So this is a view looking west along East Market Street. This is a 1964 view with the Holiday Inn sign seen on the south side of the Lincoln Highway. In the distance, at the far right, is the York County Shopping Center sign. And down the street from the Holiday Inn sign are dining spots at the Lincoln Woods Inn. It's hard to see there, right along the street. See if this works. So right there is the Lincoln Woods Inn sign, and back here is the Gino's Hamburger sign. So people have asked me, it's like, was Lincoln Woods Inn ever a lodging establishment? And I cannot find anything that it was. So it is strictly a dining place. The Holiday Inn briefly became a Ramada Inn for a few months in 1999 before it changed to a present Quality Inn and Suites. Now, when you look at this motel, here's a view from a motel room along the back part of the property, which looks over the Holiday Inn pools and the central courtyard. The Holiday Inn's dining room, coffee shop, lounge with piano bar and banquet rooms are in the front of the motel in the structure that the small part of which is seen at the right side. The banquet rooms could accommodate 240. Interestingly, when Eddie Herr retired from his business in York, he got a job as sales manager at the Holiday Inn. He was in charge of arranging banquets, parties, and meetings. So these people that sell the property, they come back to it. So essentially, like I said, this is now a Quality Inn and Suites. That fills up the map. So these are the 14 lodging places that were once located along the Lincoln Highway in Springettsbury Township. How many remain? How many have been keeping track? 3 remain. So you have the oldest, the 1951 Chateau Motel, the 1958 Flamingo Motel, and the 1964 Holiday Inn, which is now Quality Inn and Suites. Now, I'll take a quick look at 5 recent lodging places that opened in the York Valley and within Springettsbury Township. First one is Hampton Inn, right across the street. It opened in 1992 at 1550 Mount Zion Road. At 144 guest rooms, it is presently the largest motel in Springettsbury Township. There's a picture of it. Next one to open is Courtyard by Marriott. It opened in 2011 at 2799 Concord Road. It contains 103 guest rooms. The next one is the Holiday Inn Express. Opened in 2012 at 18 Cinema Drive. It contains 77 guest rooms. And the next one is Town Place Suites. It opened in 2013 at 2789 Concord Road with 100 guest rooms. And the final one, Candlewood Suites. It opened in 2017 at 955 North Hills Road. Contains 85 guest suites. So these are the 9 active lodging establishments. I included the Heritage Hills Resorts there. It's not in this view. But there are a total of 9 hotels, inns, motels, lodging places in Springettsbury Township as of 2025. They provide 742 guest rooms. So thanks for your attention. There's the QR code if you're interested in donating to help restore the Modern Era Motel sign. So if you have any questions, I'll take them now. Otherwise, thanks for listening.